Backstage and entering the arena is Hangman Adam Page. He is carrying his bag and a cold one in the other hand, and he gets stopped by Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. Matt Jackson goes on to say, "Page, finally, you mind if we talk about what happened Saturday?" And he replies with a simple, "Nope." And then Nick Jackson chimes in, "Kenny's pretty beaten up, dude. He's quite upset as well. So much so, he's taken the night off." Hangman Page, "I don't give a shit." "What the hell, man? You're elite. You're one of us. What's this all about?" Hangman Page stops, shoves Nick, and says, "What's this all about? When was the last time any of you cared what I wanted? When was the last time you were genuinely happy for me? Fuck you both and Kenny and the elite. I'm done." Hangman walks on, leaving both Nick and Matt speechless. So we're coming off Full Gear and Hangman Adam Page's turn, and I think this segment kicking off this week's edition of Dynamite sets the tone perfectly for a heel run with Hangman Page. We get a segment rating of 80. Let's get on with the show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to AEW Dynamite. We're hot off the heels of one of the finest nights we've witnessed here in AEW with Full Gear. Tonight has the potential to be even better. Well, I think it does, JR, because Full Gear we saw Marty Scurll and his Villain Enterprises debut attacking Cody. We're going to hear from him tonight. Plus, we'll also hear from MJF, who came up short against Jon Moxley in his title match this past Saturday. Gentlemen, how can we forget also what happened between the former tag team champions Page and Omega? Hangman Adam Page turning on Omega was quite the shock, and as we've just seen, he's here tonight and ready to compete. Well, let's not waste any more time. We are here at the Santander Arena in front of 7,160 fans. This segment rating getting a 56. We are off to a very strong start for Dynamite this week. So here is what you guys can expect in this episode. Marty Scurll, who did debut at Full Gear, speaks out. We'll hear from him. We'll also see Hangman Adam Page in action after he turned on his tag team partner Kenny Omega. Also, MJF has a dress down for the likes of Wardlow after he lost to Jon Moxley at Full Gear. Also, Private Party, who competed in that triple threat tag team match, are in action against the Butcher and the Blade. So then, here we go. The Villain Enterprises theme hits, and out comes both Marty Scurll and Brody King, who attack Cody at Full Gear. Marty is dressed to compete, and he also has a mic, and he goes on to say, well, Marty Scurll and Villain Enterprises finally here in AEW, all elite. Some never thought it was going to happen, and some didn't want it to happen. Did they, Cody? Oh, did you forget about me? Is that what it is? A simple slip of the mind? Well, I didn't forget. I sat and watched you and your elite buddies, who I used to call my friends also. That's clearly not the case anymore. Enjoying the high life, whilst I had to carve out an existence of my own in the Indies, and I did a pretty damn good job of that. Guess what though? I made some new friends. This right here is one badass motherfucker, Brody King. The other two, well, you'll meet them soon enough. For now though, it's time for me to make my mark here on AEW Dynamite. So we get a segment rating of 70 here, as we are about to transition into the first match of the evening. My Scurll benefit from having a groundswell of public support. How much that will happen in real life when everything returns to normal, I'm not sure. After everything that went down in lockdown with the whole speak out movement. But the match is Skrull against Brian Pillman Jr. And of course, with it being Skrull's first match here in AEW, he was always going to go over. Kind of felt bad for doing that to Brian Pillman, seeing that he lost to Pac at Full Gear. But Marty Skrull goes over. We get a segment rate of 69 for this. We have a look at the bonuses. Brian Pillman doing brilliantly. With an in-ring performance of 50, still quite a lot of room for improvement there. Obviously, as Marty Skrull gets a 72 there. Then up next, Marty Skrull is kind of celebrating his win as Brody King stands there looking menacing. Cody rushes out, slides into the ring, tackles Marty to the canvas, throwing fists. Brody uses his strength and picks and slings Cody off Marty. Cody looks wild. He goes for Marty again, but Brody stands in his way. Cody takes a step back, looks at Brody, then swings for him. But Brody catches him, headbutts him, then lifts him for his cradle shock. Cody is laid out as Marty stands over him. Villain Enterprises are here to stay. We get a segment rating of an 84. The only negative here was that Brody King was very underwhelming. I find that hard to believe. That cradle shock would be something quite special to see on someone like Cody, being an EVP here in AEW. And I know their debut has been very similar to CM Punk's debut back at All Out, but at least there's been a bit more physicality kicking off the story, if you will. As we roll into the next segment, backstage in the locker room sitting is Matt Hardy, and he seems down, talking to himself. What's the point, huh? Broken Matt Hardy, dead. Big Money Matt, dead. V1 Matt, dead. But at least I still have you. I will not die, Matt Hardy. No, I will not die. I cannot die. And walking into the locker room is Lance Archer and Jake Roberts. Archer stands tall over Hardy. Matt slowly looks up to see a grinning Archer, who says calmly, "I'd like to test that, Matt Hardy." As quick as lightning, Lance Archer grabs Hardy and slings him across the locker room. Jake the Snake is watching on, laughing. Archer goes to town on Hardy, grounding and pounding on the floor. Hardy gets busted open. And then Archer leaves, but Jake stays behind and says to a hurting Hardy, "Hey, everybody dies, right?" As he joins his client, Lance Archer. As they leave the locker room, they leave Matt Hardy in a pool of his own blood in the locker room. You can see that I've changed his image as well. We're moving away from the broken gimmick. I know he has in real life simply because there are no fans in the crowd, but I feel as though I want to move away from that gimmick. And also Big Money Matt and V1 Matt. Let's see what he can do with Lance Archer. Our next match of the evening sees the Butcher and the Blade overcome Private Party. It's almost a fall from grace when you consider Private Party were in that triple threat tag team match at Full Gear, and now they're losing to the Butcher and the Blade in 10 minutes 51 after the Butcher submitted Isaiah Cassidy. Only gets a 38, and that's simply because Butcher was really off his game. Some would say he's still quite green in the ring, and still got a long way to go, but they do have a lot about them. I love their characters and what they can bring to the roster. Up next, the Inner Circle, per Brody's request back at Full Gear, head out to the ring and wait for the Dark Order. Chris Jericho and Brody Lee stand facing each other, flanked by their respective groups. So we've got the Inner Circle, the Dark Order in the ring. Brody Lee goes on to say, "Chris, we've known each other for some time. I've always thought we had a mutual respect for one another. That obviously isn't the case. This ain't like that other place, as you well know. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to shy away in fear of hurting your feelings. You will apologise. Better yet, Sammy will apologise to me and the Dark Order for what he did last week. Now." Chris Jericho just smirks and then replies with, "That's not going to happen. Cut the shit, Brody. You want an apology? Beat Sammy right here and you'll get one." Sammy can't believe what he's hearing. Brody nods and accepts. Jericho accepts for Sammy in turn, telling Sammy it'll be okay. So Chris Jericho putting Sammy Guevara in a match without Sammy Guevara's blessing. Guevara not too happy with that. We get a segment rating of 74. Really happy with this. The face-off between Brody Lee and Chris Jericho. Tensions rising recently between these two. And in that match, it is Sammy Guevara that overcomes Brody Lee in 13 minutes 1 by disqualification. Tension's really beginning to rise. As what I was thinking here, either Evil or Stu Grayson got involved, and Aubrey Edwards did see it and called for the bell. Sammy Guevara going over Brody Lee. Brody pissed about this. You can see Sammy Guevara, the better performer, with a 64 there. Brody with a 55. We get a segment rating of 66 as we move into our next segment, still with the Inner Circle going dark storyline. After the match comes to an end due to DQ, there is still pushing and shoving between Sammy and Brody Lee. Jericho tries getting involved with Santana and Ortiz. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson back up Brody Lee. It gets to a point where it becomes a big standoff between the Inner Circle and the Dark Order. Then the lights go out. When they come back on, stood in the middle is Darby Allin. Darby Allin is back, who we haven't seen since Jericho threw him through that window at Halloween Havoc. And he goes straight for Chris Jericho. Of course he does. Everything descends into chaos. Darby and the Dark Order clear the ring. Inner Circle retreat with Jericho being pulled back, shouting, "Darby!" You can just imagine Jericho, just like he did with Mike Tyson. And after the Inner Circle have gone, Darby looks at the Dark Order and seems disgusted. Then he leaves himself. Brody Lee watches on with a glint in his eye. Does he have plans for Darby Allin? We will have to wait and see. But Darby is back, been out of action for just over a month now, and that obviously hasn't helped with his morale. Obviously being left out of Full Gear and so on, but he's back now, and you can expect a bit more from Darby Allin as that segment gets a 62. Up next, we see a quick promo from Chris Statlander, which is she's seen in a dark room, and she goes on to say, "Earthlings, I come in peace. I come to be your leader. My race have been watching you for many years now. We've seen you struggle. We've seen you suffer. We know you're vulnerable. Now is the right time for us to step in and help. To be the guiding hand. Accept us as we are willing to accept you. Let me be your leader. And if you refuse, I will be your enemy." So it gets a 36 rating, this promo from Chris Statlander. And that's okay. I'm feeling pretty happy with that. We had Jericho working as the road agent for this promo. I think there's definitely a lot more to come from Chris Statlander as she moves into her match against Britt Baker, and it is a draw. It was a double count out between these two, who are obviously looking to be in the title picture a bit more after that title match at Full Gear, which saw Tony Storm overcome Hikaru Shida. You can see Chris Statlander with a 34 and Britt Baker the better performer, as after the match, Sarah Rose stares down Britt Baker with wild eyes and holding her bowl of blood. Britt Baker seems a bit freaked out and backs out. We've had Sarah Rose almost stalking Britt Baker over the last couple of weeks. Chris Statlander is in the ring watching on. Rose turns to Statlander, placing the bowl down and slides into the ring. Maybe her next victim. But before she makes a move, Statlander attacks Rose, eventually leading to her Big Bang Theory. She signals for the Women's Championship title around her waist. So Chris Statlander showing a bit of ferocity there. Bit of no nonsense, no messing around, just getting stuck in. As up next, backstage, it looks as though Hangman Page is heading out for his match tonight when he bumps into Dax Hardwood and Cash Wheeler, who are talking to Tully Blanchard. "Hey Page, just wanted to say, what you did Saturday took guts. Yeah, you know, we watched a lot of your matches when you was tag champs with that chump. He was holding you back, dude." Hangman Page, "Yeah, well, not anymore. I don't need him, or the Elite." Tully Blanchard chimes in, "Hey, you know what? Page, you were great when you teamed with Private Party a few weeks ago. Why not team up with FTR here next week? If it's okay with you guys, I think I'll pass. I'm done with tag teams." "And that's cool. Just know, if there's anything you need, we're here for you." "Thanks, I'll keep that in mind," replies Hangman Page. So we're leaving that door open with FTR, Hangman Page and Tully Blanchard, although Tully Blanchard did not do well with that script to follow. And we stick with Hangman Page for the next segment as he continues to walk down the corridor when he bumps into Pac, who has his TNT Championship around his waist. Remember, these two were supposed to battle at Halloween Havoc. They stare one another down. So, you've finally seen the light, huh? Finally seen what Kenny and his friends are like. How'd it feel, huh? Losing those titles to my amigos. Hangman shoves Pac, then Pac shoves back. They start to brawl, then Dax and Cash rush in to break things up, siding with Hangman. As Pac backs away, he shouts, "This ain't over. Why don't you and your chums there face us, Death Triangle, tonight?" Hangman looks at FTR. They all agree. Hangman's saying, "You're on." Big 6-man tag for tonight's main event. FTR and Hangman versus Death Triangle. This segment getting a 70. Really happy with that. And the intrigue does not stop there as MJF makes his way to the ring. Wardlow and the Masked Man is with him. They step into the ring and MJF has a mic and he talks to both for his public dressing down. What happened at Full Gear was an absolute disgrace. Moxley still being champion sickens me. Yes, you both beat him to a bloody pulp, resulting in him not being here tonight, and he still won. I asked you, Wardlow, to find an extra man to help take Moxley out, and still you failed. You've pissed me off, Wardlow, and now I'm fining you 3 months' pay. Wardlow seems annoyed. He shakes his head and eventually steps out the ring. MJF shouts, "Where the hell do you think you're going? Don't you dare leave this ring. I'm not finished." He then turns to the Masked Man, "And you." Before he can finish, the Masked Man clotheslines MJF and then hits him with an underhook facebuster. We saw that at Full Gear on Jon Moxley. He takes his mask off to reveal EC3. He shouts at MJF, "I control my narrative, not you." He walks out, leaving MJF laid out. So we now add EC3 to the equation. We get a 72 here, the angle getting the crowd hotter. EC3 clearly enjoyed having the freedom to go off script, and he performed well. His cocky gimmick getting a great rating, so that's fantastic to see. He does come into AEW as a heel. I did and ah about that, whether he should be a face, but he does come in as a heel, as you guys will find out very soon. But up next, our main event of the evening, it's Hangman Page teaming up with FTR to take on Death Triangle, and it's Hangman that wins the match as he pins Pac with a turn the page. It looks like Page did really well with FTR as well, which is what Tully Blanchard mentioned. You know, he did well teaming up with Private Party a few weeks back, and here he is now with FTR, and it's Page that pins Pac. I didn't want him pinning Pentagon Jr. or Rey Fenix because they won the tag team championships at Full Gear, so I think that would have hurt their momentum a bit if one of those got pins. Kind of a really difficult decision to have Pac get pinned with a decisive win here, but there is more, definitely more to come from this story. If we look at the dirt sheet, let's look at the... Yeah, we had a segment rating penalised for the odd face heel combination, and did I just see... Let's have a look. Did I just see... Yeah, it was penalised for a noticeable botch. That's a bit disappointing, but yet we still managed to pull out 71. We had Aubrey Edwards in charge, Tully Blanchard, our road agent. Tully's contract is coming to an end, I should mention as well. I have tried to renew it numerous times, but he wants to retire. So I'm going to have to find a way of working around that, seeing that I'm involving him in his storyline now. Anyway, after the match, Dax and Cash climb into the ring and are congratulating Hangman Page. All three stand together. Dax looks at Cash and nods. Then they both look at Hangman, and they both hold up 3 fingers each. Hangman smirks, nods his head, and holds 3 fingers of his own up. What does this mean? Hangman then heads over to his beer cooler he brought to the ring and shares out a few to both Dax and Cash. All 3 cheers together, sloshing beer. Backstage, Tully is seen watching a TV and he's nodding. AEW Dynamite comes to a close. So does this mean Hangman is with FTR? See, all three held up those three fingers. We're going to get 3 Horsemen, maybe. You guys are just going to have to stay tuned to find out. The segment getting a 63. Dax Harwood not doing well with that script to follow, but that's okay. I'm really happy with this show. Definitely one of my favourites that I've put together. And we got a 74 overall rating, so that's not bad as we increase our popularity in 14 regions. We did have quite a few 30s in there. The Butcher and Blade match against Private Party getting a 38 in the women's division there. All 3 segments from that. But apart from that, I really enjoyed this. And obviously having Darby Allin returning against the Inner Circle. Can't wait to get onto the second show. Let's see how we've done with the ratings then this week up against NXT. So we scored a 2.02 TV rating, get 1.5 million viewers. Over on TNT we got a 1.42 with just over 1 million, I should say, in viewership. And for NXT, we beat them on show rating just by 1 this week. They did sell out the Cabarrus Arena, I think that is, with 5,500 in attendance. And they scored a 2.15 TV rating with 1.6 million viewers. Overall, 1.676 mil. So they're looking quite good at the moment, NXT, when it comes to TV ratings. But show ratings, not so well. I think we're just edging that. I think we're just beating them on the overall show rating. Anyway, that is it for this episode of AEW Dynamite. Remember, there will be no AEW Dark now until the new year. That's it from me then. Thanks for watching.